So I'm here at Green Haven Plant Farm with my friend and fellow NC State alum, Matt Whitaker. He's been a owner and operator of this nursery and plant farm for the past 7 years, and he's going to teach us how to get seeds started. And if you're anything like me, you haven't done it successfully ever. And so Matt does it successfully like every day. And so he's going to give us a little bit of heads up and a few pointers. So Matt, take it away.
So the first step of germinating seeds is to start with a high quality potting soil. You want something that's really fine because you want that seed to make good contact with the soil. So first things first, you need to get a good base to start with. We use a small 288 count tray, but you can use any type of tray. You could use just an open tray and broadcast seeds. The next thing on your seed packs, pretty much all of them give you germination tips. This is the most important thing. It tells you the temperature of germination. These are cabbage seeds. 60 to 65 degrees is their optimal germination temperature. So that's one thing you really need to look at. To get seeds to germinate, you need the right temperature and the right moisture percentage. So we put our seeds in a germination room with about 100% humidity for the first couple of days. You can achieve this at home by putting like a piece of plastic over. Once that seed cracks and you first see green, then you need to pull that off and get the humidity back down to a normal percentage. If you don't, then you'll start getting rot and you'll lose some of your seeds. But you need that high humidity just in the first 2 to 3 days or until that seed starts cracking. Different seeds take different lengths to germinate. Your cole crops, cabbage, broccoli, that stuff's going to germinate, crack the seed coat in about 2 to 3 days. Stuff like peppers can take up to 2 weeks. So don't get discouraged just because it's taking a while. Some things are longer than others. But the main thing is that once you get them in there, get them covered with that potting soil with a very thin layer. You could also use something like a sphagnum moss. We use that a lot to cover seeds because it's light, but yet it holds a lot of moisture. But the temperature and humidity percentage are the two main things in germinating seeds. This is our seed germination room. It's nothing fancy. It's just a little small storage unit here that's insulated. We have a heater in here, and then we have a humidifier in here so that we can keep that humidity and temperature exactly where we want it. And so the seeds stay in here until they crack. Once that seed coat cracks and that plant starts emerging, they're moved out into the greenhouse where they can get light because it's completely dark in here.
How do you handle moisture control in your actual plant trays? I mean, these are pretty small.
So when we seed them, we already have this potting soil saturated and soaked. That way once you seed it, you don't overwater and wash those seeds out. So that's already wet. Then we put our layer on top and just very lightly moist it. Put the moisture over there. But once that's saturated, if you wrap it or put a piece of plastic over it, will hold the moisture normally for enough days for that to germinate. If you start seeing the soil start dry out on the top, just pull it off and just kind of mist it really lightly. You don't want to wash your seeds out. That's the main thing there too. You got to be very careful on that.
So at what point do you move from these little starting trays up to a bigger pot?
So we normally wait until the plant's 1.5 inches to 2 inches, or that it's rooted. So we'll kind of tug on the stem, or you can just look at the bottom because most of your trays will have holes in them. So if you see a root coming out of the bottom, then they're ready to go because they're rooted all the way through. So either the size of that or the root structure.
So I know for you, I mean, you're out here, you're selling these plants, so you're going to move them up into a bigger tray.
Right.
If we're taking them from a tray like this, once they get rooted, could we go ahead and direct them straight into the ground, or do we need to let them get a little bit bigger before we do that?
You can. I would let them get a little bit bigger. This is, just a very small cell size. If you put this directly in the garden, it's going to be a very small plant and could get lost or damaged being that small. What I would recommend transplant would be something with a root ball of about 2 inches by 2 inches, or like a 6-pack size is kind of what we put them in. That gives you a substantial size plant that's 4 to 6 inches tall that will really take off when it's in the garden, and it won't be struggling to get enough moisture. And once you put something this small in the garden, it's hard to keep enough water on it to get it to establish. Where if you have a bigger plug, that root ball will hold moisture longer, so it's a little easier to get it started.
So for people doing church gardens, home gardens, probably be better to start in something a little bit bigger than this?
Yeah, I would start with a 6-pack, a 36 count tray. That's
Okay.
kind of a standard size for vegetables, or a 48. You can do a 48, or like I said, you could just get an empty, tray with no dividers and broadcast your seeds and let them get up to that size and then separate them by hand.
Right.
I prefer to have an individual plant in there because you don't damage the roots when you're pulling them out.
All right. Well, thank you, Matt. Thank you for having us out here and sharing your wisdom and knowledge. Yeah, thanks for all that you do.
Yeah, no problem.